Hey, welcome to the second drag and drop video here. And here I'm going to take you through the process of putting together a simple drag and drop interface. So I'll show you what we're aiming for first of all, and this is part of the package. This is in drag and drop examples, and we've got a shop folder in there with a scene called shop. And when we run this, we get like a store here and then a player's inventory here. So you can imagine we're buying things by dragging them from the right to the left. And you can see we've got $1,000 up in the corner here. So if I buy a red medal, I've now only got $900 left. If I give that back to the shop, I've got $1,000. So if I've only got $900, I can't afford to buy a gold crown. But I can, however, swap these two, and I've now got $0 left. And I can't afford to buy a red medal, but I could swap that gold crown with a silver crown, say, buy all the medals I want, and so on and so on. So here we've got a dragging between two inventories, one of which belongs to the player. Got a silver crown, red medal, blue medal, green medal, one of which belongs to the shop. The player inventory's got the amount of money there. You can see how that changes when I drag things back and forwards. And money is being used to allow or disallow certain drag and drop operations. Can't drag a silver crown in there because it goes back. So this is what I'm going to show you how to set up from scratch. So to begin with, we're going to go new scene, and we'll delete this shop scene. We'll delete the two prefabs I made to do that. And what else do we need to delete? Items, they're good. In the script, we'll delete the 3 UI related items. Inventory UI there. Yep. And the item UI. Delete that. So all we're starting with here is an item and an inventory script. So this is kind of like where you might be if you've been writing the back end for a RPG and you haven't started doing the user interface yet, and you've just got the drag and drop package to enable you to knock together the user interface quickly. So that's the sort of situation we're doing here. So what do we have in this drag and drop shop namespace? We've got the item class as a scriptable object, and each item has a sprite, a colour, and a cost. So this is what gets displayed in the UI, and that's how much it costs. An inventory has a number of items, an array of items, rather, whether it's the player or not, or the shop, and we've got how much gold you have, starting with 1,000. So we'll start putting together a simple scene here. So first of all, we want to add a canvas, and we'll make that canvas scale with screen size, which is my default. And in the UI we're going to add an image, which will be our shop for the player. So we'll give it the background texture there. And we're going to anchor this on the top left. So, whoops, rect transform. So I want to make the pivot 0, 1, and we'll have that 16 pixels in from the edge there, and, oops, what did I do there? It doesn't matter. And 48 pixels down. We'll leave a little bit of room at the top for putting the text for how much money we've got in a little bit. Right, so that's that. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to make something that can represent an item, so we can put them into here. So we're going to create a C# script called item UI. And let's have a look at that then. So we'll put it in the same namespace as item. item UI. We'll drop it into the namespace there. And we're going to be using drag and drop here. So first of all, we want to derive this from Draggable instead of monoBehave. You can get rid of start and update, we don't need them. And it doesn't like that because we have an abstract function we have to fill in. Implement abstract class. We need to do an update object function. So update object is where you're saying make this UI object represent the core object underneath, which is stored in the obj member. So we're interested in items here, so we go item equals obj as item. And we're going to go GameObject.setActive. I do this for nearly all of them. Item is not equal to null. So if we don't have an item to display, we just turn the object off now and just see the empty slot underneath. Now, what might we want to display? If we have a look at item, we've got a icon which we'll be changing the sprite and the color for, and a cost and a name that we want to display. So we'll have a few UI elements in here. Using UnityEngine.UI, we're going to have a text name tag. We'll have a text for the cost, and we'll have a image, the icon for the object. So here we just go if item is not equal to null, we found something, we're displaying something. If we have a name tag dot text equals item.name, so here we feed in the items data, the backend object's data, into the UI component we're making here. If we have a cost tag to display, cost.text equals $ plus cost, item.cost. So display the cost there in a text that we've specified as that. Oh yeah, these all need to be public here. Quickly I'll drag my way out of that. Public. And if we have an icon, we need to do a couple of things. Icon.color equals item.color, and icon.sprite equals item.icon, which is a sprite, I believe. There we go. So that's our item UI setup. We just have an update object function that casts the background object that we hold in to an item and fills in some data fields. So we can now make a prefab for that. Let's do that. So example shop prefabs. So we'll just work in here, and we'll go canvas, and we'll make an image first of all, and we're going to make these ones 64 by 96. It was. And we'll make the image black background for these. We'll use the background image to give them a nice kind of rounded corners. And we're going to call this one item UI, this object. We will now place another image in there for the icon for the object. So we'll go UI image. We're going to make that a 64 by 64 image. Get it positioned at the top of this one, so that its top matches the top. That's 0 there. And by default, just so we can see if what we're doing looks right, we'll put a crown in there. and we'll maybe color it gold. Yeah, so that looks good. We will now put a text in here, UI text, make that, excuse me, make that 64 by 20 say. The kind of text we might have in here is silver crown. The name of an object, we're going to make that text white so we can read it, and we'll shrink it down to 10 point. Now 14 point should be okay, and maybe we just need to make it a little bit taller till we can see the second word. Silver crown, okay, 32 seems to be it. Fiddle around with this, 24, and let's make it size 12. Does that work? 26 then. There we go. And we'll center that in the middle. So we'll anchor this one on the top again and make it its top. Say it about there. Looks about right. Right, we'll add another text, UI text. This one we're going to make 64 across as well. Only needs to be about 12 high, 16 high maybe. Yep, so we can read it. We'll give it a nice gold colour, like that. And it's going to display things like $1,000. So we'll drag it down to the bottom there. Maybe make that text a little bit smaller for this one and right align it. Seems nice. There. So we've got the cost of the item down there. So I'll just rename these two. Always good to do that. That's the name, and that's the cost of the item. And then in this item UI at the top one here, we just got component item UI. So we put our little script in here, which is derived from Draggable. That's the icon. Drag the image into there. That's the name tag. And that's the cost tag. And we'll, mouse button 0 means we're dragging them with the left mouse button when we drag and drop these. We'll just move that cost over. I'll just make it a little bit shorter actually. But yeah, about 60 should do. Just so it's not touching right at the edge. Yep. So that looks okay. That's passable for our purposes, and we can then make this into a prefab. Just drag it into the prefabs folder there. Done. And while we're here, we'll make a slot as well. So we will create a new image. We'll make it a little bit bigger than the other one, 68 by 100. Give it the background field there, and we're going to add a slot to that. This is just the base slot class from the drag and drop library. Don't need to do anything more with that. F2, and we'll call this item slot, this thing here, and that can be a prefab as well. So we can see now that if we have an item slot and an item UI inside it, they fit nicely. Yep, our job is done there. So we've got the item UI looking like that, the item slot looking like that. Go back to the scene and we can delete these two now. Now, on our image here, this is going to be our shop for the player. First of all, we will add, no, we're not quite ready to do that yet. We need to go back to the scripts. Right, so example shop scripts. We've got an item UI and an item. We've got an inventory. We need an inventory UI now. So we'll create a new script, inventory UI. So there's sort of a square here. Inventory contains a list of items. Inventory is represented by an inventory UI. Item is represented by an item UI. Inventory UI contains a list of item UIs. So let's have a look at this script now. It's Visual Studio doing, oh yeah, doing that stupid line ending thing. Okay, so we're going to need all of these again, I think. And this, instead of being derived from monobehavior, now our inventory has an array of items. So we want to derive from an object container array. Yay. Oops, caps lock. There we go. And we just need to do the start function. So we're going to have an inventory that we're displaying. Call it inventory. And all we need to do here is go create slots inventory dot items, and that's that. Great. So this is as simple as the drag and drop library gets, where you can just do this one-line start function, point it at the relevant array inside your object, and you're done. So let's go back to Unity and implement this. Right, so in the scene we need to have an inventory to draw. So we'll just create an empty game object down here, call it player. Player, and we'll drop an inventory on them. Inventory, there we go. And that inventory will make it 20 items. And we'll have 1,000 gold, and we'll start them off with an item. We'll start them off with a bronze crown just so we can see it. And we'll give them one of each crowns actually. Silver crown, gold crown. Right, so in the canvas, in this image now, we're going to rename that to F2 player inventory. And we're going to put on that, first of all, an inventory UI. Now we need to say what's the slot prefab. That is going to be, no, we can't see it in there. We need to go to our prefabs folder. So our player inventory is going to have the item prefab there and the item slot there. That's what we're going to be cloning. The inventory UI, I think I've left something out there. I didn't make the inventory public. Make that public and save, so we can say whose inventory we're displaying. Give it a minute. And there we go. We're going to display the player's inventory with this one. Now if we do that, that's going to create all the children. What we still need to do is we need to organize those children. So we need a grid layout group, and they're going to be 68 by 100, which was the size of the slots. The constraint is going to be a fixed column count of 4. Yep, and that's all we need there. And we will also add a content size fitter, which we'll just set to preferred for both of these. And you can see that changes now. So that means that it's basically going to shrink this player inventory image to fit, and it's going to organize all the children in a grid. So we'll save our scene now as drag and drop examples shop. Shop.unity, and we're going to run it and see what happens now. There we go. So it's going to create all these child slots here. I think I might make the column counts 5 so we can see the bottom of the array there, because we've gone off the bottom of the screen a bit. Yes, I'll just adjust that. That's in the player inventory, the grid layout. We'll make it 5 columns, so it's 5 by 4 because they're quite tall, these slots that we've made. And there we go, we have a player inventory. We can drag stuff around, and if we look at the little player down here, we can see it's updating their array with our object. Awesome. Now, it's fairly easy from here to just duplicate that player, call down store, and let's put a few items in the store. 3 crowns there are good, that's the first row. Then we'll have a red medal, a green medal, and a blue medal. Maybe enable to put a couple more bronze crowns, and so on. So we've now got a couple of inventories there. One for the player. I'll tick his player on this one. I'll show you why in a minute. Just leave that for now. So we've got the store there and the player in the map, and in the canvas we can just duplicate this as well and call this store inventory. And that one we want to anchor on the top left, make the pivot in X1, and make the position -16, so it's anchored on the other side there. And the store inventory should point at the store there. So now, fingers crossed, we have two inventories. We've got a store on the right here, where you can see we've got the various crowns and the medals. The player over here, and if we select a player and I'm going to drag a medal in, you can see we've dragged a medal from the store to the player. The store no longer has the medal. Awesome. So that's just the very basics of the drag and drop system. We've, just to recap, made a UI script for our item and set in an update object function, made a script for our collection UI, the inventory UI, and just called create slots. We've had to make prefabs for the object and the slot, set them all up in these UI things with a grid layout and a content size fitter, and everything's working fine now. You can drag between these to your heart's content. Now we're going to introduce money into the equation now. So this is where I want to designate that this one's the player. When we drag stuff into the player's inventory from somewhere else, we want to charge them money, and we want to make sure they've got enough money to do that. So first of all, we want to be able to display our money. So I'll just drop a quick UI text in here. We'll once again anchor it at the top, give it a pivot of 0, 1 at the top left corner, and make it -16. 16 pixels out from that edge, and -16 pixels below the top of the screen. And it's going to display things like $999. We'll put a little script on it. We'll make one called Coin UI. I'll make that in here. Create C# script, Coin UI. That's going to be very simple. Coin UI. Let's see, we'll grab all of this namespace stuff we were using before. We're going to need all of that again. And it's going to have text, which is just a sibling component. Text equals get component text. Oops, that's going to be text with a lowercase t. And in the update, we just go text.text equals $ plus. Now we need an inventory in here. Public inventory text plus inventory dot gold, was it, or coin gold? I called it here in the inventory. So that just displays the player's gold every frame. It's inefficient, but it'll do for now. So on this one, on the text, we're going to on this text here, we're going to add a coin UI to it. Not liking it. Oops. Coin UI. There we go, and it's going to correspond to the player's inventory. So In our inventory UI, we need to do a few more things now. It's been a very simple object container array defined thing. We want to add a couple of overrides. First of all, we want to put an override, public override, and it's drop that we want to override. Let me consult my notes here. Yep. So what we want to do in here is we want to get the item from that slot we're dropping in. So item equals slot.item.obj as an item. So here we're saying we're dropping something into this slot and it's coming from this container. If we've got a valid item, we're not just sort of dragging nothing around, or we're not dragging an empty item in. If we're dropping an item into the player's inventory, we've got to charge them for it. So if the inventory dot is player, that's our inventory. If we're dragging something into the player's inventory, then inventory dot gold minus equals the item dot cost. And then we call the base drop, which just reorganizes the array and does all of that. So we'll have a look at how that works now. We can see our money up there. That should change to $1,000 when we run. Yep. And if we drag a $200 item in there, that goes down to 800. It goes down to 300. It goes down to minus 700. So that's not good. We can go into overdraft. And also you'll notice if I drag this $100 thing in, right, if I drag something out, it doesn't change my money. And if I drag this in to here, it just keeps charging me money as I swap these two around. And also every time I move something around in the array, it's charging me money. So we're not quite there yet. We want to do the reverse cost as well. That if we're moving an item out of the player's inventory, they get their money back. And I've got the code for it here. I'll just copy and paste that in. So what we're doing here is the from inventory, it's the from container. We check if that's an inventory UI as well. If it is, and it was the player inventory, then we add the cost back in. Because this drop gets called twice whenever you drag an item from one way to the other and from the other way back. So if we save that now, we should be able to see this work correctly for the costs. Bronze crown, yep. Now I'm going to drop a red medal over the top of the bronze crown, which should gain me $100. There we go. Subtract $100. If we move this around in here, yep, everything's fine. If I sell my gold crown, woohoo, I've got $1,800 now. And so on. Whoops. Something bad happened there. Right, from inventory line. Right, okay, yep. This got copied and pasted into the wrong place. We should only be doing that if we've got a valid item. Yep. So that's that. So the other thing we want to do as well is we want to do an override of can drop. And the base for this, the base for can drop, for peak definition, just returns true. So we can get rid of that. We can just go return true as the default. This is, is it okay to drop this item in here? And we're going to gate this on whether the player has enough money. So we do that. First of all, we want to always shuffle around inside ourselves. That's never a problem. Now, if we're the player, we want to work out the cost of this transaction and make sure we've got enough gold in our inventory. Now the cost is the item we drag into the inventory, we add that to the cost. But if we already have an item in there, which is going to get moved out of our inventory, we subtract its cost. And then we get that return cost is less than inventory.gold. So let's just see that in action now. Stop playing. Thinking. And play again. Okay, so buy another gold crown. That'll take me to $0. And now I want to try to buy things. Drop a silver crown on there and back to 500. So I can now buy metals to my heart's content until Can I drop that on that one to get 100, which is minus $100? No, I can't. Can I still move these around? Yep. What else might I be able to do? If I put 2 of the metals back, can buy a bronze crown, can replace them with a medal, and so on, and it's all working as intended now. There we go. So, that's taken you through the process, step by step, of how to build up a drag and drop interface when you only have the back-end data. First of all, doing the basic and necessary steps of creating the item UI script, the inventory UI script, creating prefabs for them, you have to do that. Setting up our things in the scene and making wiring up the prefabs there, having the back-end object in the scene and attaching that to the inventory UI so that you can get the correct array for calling create slots, with the array attaching the array to the object container array there, and using the grid layout and content size filter to organize the data on the screen. And we've then gone and put in another couple of optional steps of overriding the drop function and the can drop to basically simulate money in this buying things from the store scenario. That's it. Best of luck with your own drag and drop UIs. Hope you have fun, and yeah, please get in contact if you have any problems with this. Thanks for watching.